Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jocelyn. Welcome to Humble Pie Production. Yay! Okay, today we are gonna talk about feeling numb, ways to overcome it, things like acting techniques. It's like kind of a hodgepodge, but I promise it makes sense. So let's dive on into it. Nope, not gonna spin a little. COVID-19 has been making a lot of people feel a lot of things, and people don't always want to feel things. A lot of times people have tried their best to ignore feelings, hide them, shrug them off, and generally try and not do any of that. So that can cause a lot of reactions. It can cause stuff internally, and you're just pushing that emotion down, pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down, and then it exploding like a pot on the stove. We don't want that. That is not fun. But also another thing that can happen is we can start to feel numb to our emotions. Like legitimately, all of a sudden you're doing fine, you're walking along, and you hit a point where you know you should be feeling something, but you just don't. That is a form of dissociation. Dissociation is a completely normal process that your body does when it's introduced to things like extreme stress. And extreme can mean a lot of things. Extreme can mean prolonged. Extreme can mean like quick but really severe, or it can mean repeated. So don't go telling yourself, oh, I don't have enough stress in my life in order to make it, extreme. Your body is telling you that there's stuff going on. Hiding it is just gonna make it explode later. Have you ever been told to go on a run and you'll feel better, or like, oh, just hit something, it'll make you feel better? And it's that idea of like the physicality, making your endorphins go crazy and making you feel better. I think that there is something to that. I also think that there's stuff that we're not talking about within that category. I don't just think it's like a release of dopamine, although that definitely doesn't hurt. But also, physicality plays such a role in how we deal with our emotions, how we process things. If we are feeling sad and heavy and just like tired and just constantly beat down, we physically feel it. Like our shoulders hurt, our back hurts, we feel like we're carrying that weight. When we feel joy, we feel light, we feel airy, we can breathe bigger. When we feel scared, we clench everything. So we get really stiff, we get shaky. Our palms might get sweaty, our armpits might get sweaty, whatever. So these are all physical reactions to what the world is giving you and how you're processing it. Okay, so what you're doing when somebody tells you go for a run, if you run, try that, and it makes you feel better, is you are changing your body's like physiology, you're changing your body's physicality, which then sends that little message to your brain that says, oh, everything is okay. We're cool now. The reason I got this idea is because I was listening to Philip DeFranco. He has a whole conversation with podcast. He brings on people to his podcast, and he basically just has a conversation with them. I mean, makes sense because it's a conversation with the title of his podcast. So anyway, he had one conversation specifically with Dr. Mike. And you guys know I reference Dr. Mike a ton of times. He's awesome. He's a cool cat. At least his videos make him look like a cool cat. I assume he's a cool cat. And Phil was saying a couple things that were really like, you could tell were going off as yellow flags or red flags in Dr. Mike's head. And a lot of it was talking about how he couldn't really wrap his mind around him bringing joy to other people, and he has a lot of like emotional baggage and all of that. But it was also this idea that he'd become like numb to happiness, and he had become so subjected to like all these crazy highs. The only thing that really hit him now was all the negativity. I think that us feeling numb to certain emotions tends to happen as we've been reintroduced to them, but I don't think it's so much us feeling numb. I think it's somewhere along the pathway of emotion, we just turn off that sensor. We don't let ourselves recognize that thought. In essence, we kind of dissociate from that particular emotion. This is a theory. As always, I am not a professional. I do not have any fancy degree. I have found a lot of this information on the internet, and you can check it out in the description below if you want to look at the sources that I utilized. I also have a lot of acting experience as well, and this is just, the way life goes. We pull different experiences from all over. So I will be referencing that a little bit later, and I don't have as many references for that, but I will be dropping some names that you can most certainly research. As Phil was saying, sometimes you can logically, and this is me paraphrasing, sometimes you can logically identify how you're supposed to be feeling in a moment, what something should be making you feel, but you can't quite connect it to actually making you feel that way, actually giving you the sensation of joy, for example, in his case. Now, this is a really interesting thing. There's this guy named Antonio Damasio. I might be pronouncing that wrong. He is a neurology professor at the University of Iowa, so I'm guessing that makes him a doctor. He primarily deals with people who have gotten traumatic brain injuries or TBIs. And he looks into their emotional well-being, how the neurology affects things, so why some people might have just slight damage and it might be making them emotionally extreme, or some people who have more damage who might not be showing as many emotional things but might have more cognitive issues. It's all really cool stuff. I implore you, if you want to go into neurology, go ahead and research it, because that's some crazy world right there. His theory is that emotions are the reaction the body has to outside stimuli, and that emotions then get translated by the brain into feelings. So it's actually a 3-step process to feeling the feelings that we're feeling. So first you have your outside stimuli. Could be your stressor, could be your joyful thing, could be your sad thing, whatever it is. It's that thing that's creating the situation, right? So you have an ice cream cone you just got from the store. Happiness, right? Oh, ice cream. Love it. Then you have the physical response. So that would be, in his wording, that would be your emotion.
Future Jocelyn here. So the emotion that you would be feeling would be your taste buds making your mouth salivate, right? Your heart rate going up for excitement, perhaps a distraction from some aches and pains, because usually when we start to have the chemical reaction happen in our brain, we start to get a little bit less sensitive to pain. So that would be the emotional response the body has to the ice cream.
So it's all these little reactions that happen in your brain and start to physicalize it. You know that ice cream makes you happy. When you taste ice cream, it starts to make you happy. Not because it necessarily makes you happy, but sometimes because we have repeated events around it that make us feel happy when certain things happen. I hope that made sense. That was a lot of words together. Yeah, so then you get your feeling, and that is your brain's interpretation of what is happening physically to your body and how it actually makes the feeling happen. So if your palms are getting sweaty, your brain will say, "Oh, I'm nervous," and then it'll make you nervous, because your palms are sweaty, and that's your brain's way of physicalizing the nerves. So in that way, Antonio says the physicalization actually comes before the emotional part, but they are intrinsically linked. So this is not thoughts over here, emotions over here, and you can separate them easily. They are both part of the same coin, and it's the way that your brain interacts with them and plugs things in differently that changes it. So with feelings and emotions being physicalized and having that place inside your body, it can actually help us process how we're feeling, even if the emotion and the feeling part aren't quite connected. So we can say, "Oh gosh, I'm exhausted today. I'm tired. Everything is taking a lot of physical effort for me, but I'm not really clocking my emotions. What's happening right now?" For some people, that might be how they interpret depression. It might be that physicalization more than the "I'm sad" going off in their head. And everyone's brain works differently, so for some people that might be the case, and other people it might not be the case. Actors use this physicalization to create emotion a lot. So there are many schools of thought, many acting schools of thought, as to how physicality can affect the actor's emotional journey. Things like Grotowski, Chekhov, and the Le Bon movement are all really prominent examples of acting instructors who come up with a psychology of acting or a method of acting that creates a character that is believable and real in the environment. And each one kind of uses their own like little tweaks here and there to make it specific. But the general concept is how you do a movement, whether it's a big grand movement or a small petite movement, changes how we as the audience and we as the actor feel, how we internalize that emotion. So if we see somebody who has their head to the side and has their head down, we might say like they're sad, they're distraught, they're caving their shoulders. You have this physicality in your body that is showing this emotion, so the audience sees that emotion and goes, oh, I do that too when I'm sad, or I've seen Frank do that when he's sad. Their brain clocks it as, right, that person must be sad. Well, also that physicality in an actor can also trigger your own brain to say, oh, are we sad? I guess we're sad now. This also keys into method acting a little bit, where you physically go through certain things to understand the mindset, the physicality, the way your body processes these emotions. So like actors who go and do drugs to know how to act as if somebody was doing drugs. I'm not agreeing with that process personally. That's my own thing. I don't think it's necessary to do that in order to portray it to someone else. That's my thing. The act of physicalizing it so that you understand the emotional aspect of it in order to portray it. It's using that physicality before emotion. It makes a lot of sense. Because of the way that acting works and because of the way that psychology works and all of these things kind of fit together very interestingly, I figured that there would be a lot on physicality and how that can be used in grounding, or physicality and how it can be used in like reversing dissociation. And there wasn't really a lot there, and I don't know if it's because not a lot of actors have looked into that, or if it's because not a lot of articles have been written about it maybe. There was one Psychology Today article where there was a girl who talked about like, I think, grounding exercises and such. And one of the things on the list was doing like yoga movement things to like calm down breathing and to reduce stress. And I was like, okay, I guess that counts because you are actively taking control of those physical things and, you know, pushing them into the direction of what emotion you want to feel. It wasn't worded that way, if that makes sense. The same thing with all those like deep breathing exercises and the tactile exercises. Like, it's distracting your brain, but it's also like the physicalization and the act of kind of undoing some of the things that we do when we are set in these particular emotional patterns. So when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're angry. So we're linking our body to our emotions first. That's really important. We have to understand that our body and our emotions are not separate, but they're intrinsically linked. We can't do anything if we don't understand that. And once we cognitively start to understand that, we can physically look for the signs of those emotions within our body. So say we're having a really hard time feeling happy, or as Phil DeFranco said, like where I'm like desensitized to happiness, right? So we have a really hard time identifying things that make us happy, bright, positive moments that affect us. It might be that you are feeling happiness, and somewhere along the way, your brain was like, no, this feeling isn't worth it. This feeling isn't worth it. Like, we're just gonna get let down later. So maybe it's turning off that sense to just not have like the extreme come down afterwards. Maybe it's doing other things. I don't know. Brains are cool. Brains are complex. They do weird stuff sometimes. But identifying what emotion you're feeling at the time with your physicality, I think, can help. And even if you want to get out of a certain emotion into another, okay, your heartbeat is racing right now, and because you're more in a panic zone, maybe make your heartbeat, it's hard to control your heartbeat, so find a different reason why your heart would be beating, but that's physicalized in other ways. So going for that run, doing jumping jacks or something, getting like blood circulating, might say, okay, I have room to move around now, right? Like I can do jumping jacks in this space. I can go for a run right now. So there's a way for that emotion to transform into a different emotion that is maybe physically similarly related, but actually feeling-wise is much different. So yeah, let me know if that works for you. Let me know if you have physicalized emotions in any particular way, shape, or form, or found any good grounding techniques that use physicalization. I'm interested to hear about it. Give it a thumbs up if you're an actor. Give it a thumbs up if you are interested in mental health. Give it a thumbs up if you found this slightly entertaining at least. Please, thank you. Drop a comment down below. Go ahead and click the share button. Don't forget that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next Thursday. I post videos every Thursday. All right, naps. I hope you have a good day. We're not a professionals, and we're out.